Hey, Jesse, is that you?
Yes,
Hey,
I'm
what's up, man?
here.
Yeah, I saw you. I just didn't know because you have a different wild card. I didn't know if that was you.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, cool, man.
Cool. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you got TS set up.
I didn't have it set up on my computer here at work, so
Yeah,
it
all
took me a
good.
bit to get it installed.
All good. Thanks for doing that. So if you don't mind, if you could just, introduce yourself.
Sure. So I'm Jesse Rapczak, co-founder, co-creative director at Wildcard. And as you see, we just kind of announced our inaugural game today on the internet, and we're pretty excited about it.
Ye-
So I'm happy to be here to talk to you about it and see what questions you guys might have.
All right, cool. Now is this so? What exactly is the company's name? Wildcard? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay, and is this your first game or?
No.
Oh,
As a company, it is,
okay,
but
okay.
definitely not first game for any of us here.
All right, cool. Do you mind taking me down a path? Like, what made you guys want to create a game like this?
I think that there's been a lot of survival games out there lately, and we like those games. We like the mechanics in those games, and it just kind of felt like something was missing. It's like surviving for the sake of surviving. And we also really like dinosaurs, and we kind of wanted to come up with a game where we could have what we really love, which is doing crazy stuff with dinosaurs combined with some fun backstory elements, and have the survival really be more of an element to the gameplay rather than just something that is the end goal to the gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
And so we wanted to kind of create a game where you're surviving as kind of a means to an end to get to the exploration and the adventure and all the fun stuff you can do in the game, like unveiling the backstory and things like that. So
All right, and you did say you guys are fans of survival games. So would you say you took like inspiration off of games like Daisy, Rust, those type of games out there, H1Z1?
a little bit, to the extent that
Mm-hmm.
our survival mechanics are kind of core to our gameplay. You have to master them in order to play the rest of the game. When you first start, you're going to have to do your basic stuff like find food and build shelter and figure out how to kind of just go through the daily routine, for lack of a better term, in the game itself. And once you kind of get that out of the way, then you can kind of start exploring out with some of the other stuff that there is to do in the game.
All right, so you would say you're trying to be very true to survival. You want to make an actual survival game with dinosaurs as enemies and friends?
Sure. And I wouldn't say that we're trying to be, I mean, we definitely are a hardcore survival game, but we wanted to add more to it. We didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to just be a survival game. We wanted to have objectives and things that you may want to accomplish with your friends in the game. It's not a linear
Yeah.
path through the game by any means, but, there's a lot of landmarks in our game, lots of things you can see off in the horizon, lots of things to be discovered. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's not really something as formal as a quest, but, you can think of it as like, maybe like The Legend of Zelda. You're exploring the overworld and you're coming across all these interesting things that may have pieces of this kind of broader backstory, and you can kind of pursue them at your leisure, but then we always kind of have that survival mechanic that you have to fall back on in order to kind of continue your gameplay.
All right, so let me ask you this. So, for example, I did see in the trailer, I actually decided to bring it back up. It looks like
Awesome.
in the beginning, you kind of spawn as, like, the guy looks at his arms and stuff, and you can see, like, other people as well. They're, like, also spawning. Is it kind of like you start from nothing and you get gear? Like, is there gear in the game, like maybe cloth to leather to whatever you craft? Is there,
Yes,
like,
definitely.
progression, kind of?
Yep. There's progression in the game. We're not, as you go through the game and kind of level up your character, you'll earn some points to unlock the knowledge to create certain things. And, clothing is one of those, and it protects you not just armor, but also from the elements, because we have an active weather system in our games. So,
Oh.
when a cold front comes through or a heat wave, this kind of puts some modifiers on your stats. So you might, lose your food stores faster as your body's trying to keep warm. And, you could eventually start to suffer hypothermia if you're not inside next to a fire on a cold night, for example.
Okay, and you did say active weather system now. How robust is that? Is that like rain, snow?
Yeah, currently we're modeling rain, cold fronts, heat waves. we have an idea for maybe adding in other types of weather systems, but that would be something we might explore later in early access.
Okay. Now you did say rain. Yes to snow, or is that something you're exploring?
Not at the moment. Not
Okay,
snow,
okay.
But rain definitely.
But
is
weather
already
is
in
going to
there.
be effective, like as you said, like the heat waves and stuff. You have
Yes,
to.
and
Yeah.
and it already is effective, by the way.
Oh,
in the
okay.
game. I mean, it's not. We didn't really show any of it in the trailer, but our game is live right now for all of our pre-alpha testers, and weather is a regular occurrence in the game, and it definitely impacts what you're doing and where you're going to be going if you're not sort of equipped properly to handle it.
Now, what? How exactly would you describe this game? Would it be considered like, okay, let's say I jump into early access. I did see that on Steam it's going to be released on early access, I think in June, right?
Yeah,
So
super excited about that.
So like, what would you say would be alpha in that moment, or beta, or what exactly is your goal for early access players?
So the goal for early access players for us is to hop into what we feel is a really good survival game and start to help us with balancing and like what are the right amounts of time to spend doing things, what are the right points to unlock items, how is the game right now. I mean, you can literally play the game for hundreds of hours right now, to be honest. I mean, you can build all sorts of structures, you can level up your character. I mean, it would take you forever as a single player to unlock the skill tree right now. There is a really good survival game in here right now at early access. And what we're also looking for feedback from the community during this time is, kind of how our end game unfolds. And I don't know if you saw, but we're one of the first, if not the first, Unreal Engine game to ship with mod support. And we're really looking for feedback from the community as well to take the game itself and maybe come up with some new game modes. Maybe it's fun to have a more like action-based mode where you start with like full-on dinosaurs, everybody gets one, everybody gets certain weapons, and you just do like I don't know, like for lack of a better term, like a death match with it. I mean, those are the type of things we want to support because, if that stuff ends up being really fun, maybe it finds its way, into the final release or final console version of the game.
That's actually
that stuff will be ongoing during early access as well.
Okay, that's actually pretty awesome. I was gonna actually ask you what engine is this, UE3 or UE4 or
UE4, yes.
Oh, awesome. How long has this game been in development, if you don't mind me asking?
Since around October of last year.
Oh, wow. And you also did say that you can already put in like hundreds of hours, and it seems like there's a lot to you playing and unlocking different abilities. Is that through like just constantly, for example, if you kill a lot of dinosaurs, maybe you do more damage or something over time, or your accuracy becomes to
and
get
actually,
better.
That's true as well. But also, even right now, there's so many creatures to interact with in different ways, not just in terms of needing them for resources, but also taming them and training them and figuring out like how they can help you. Obviously, there's some easy assumptions there, like a raptor is gonna probably move you really fast and be a good attacking dinosaur, but something like a parasaur might move a little slower and be able to carry a lot of extra weight for you for harvesting. So there's a lot of time in there where you can like figure out like what dinosaurs you want to train. You can have as many as you can possibly train and feed at any given time. There's not really a limit to how many dinosaurs you can have as pets per se.
Okay.
And so there's a lot to discover. There's a lot to do. And even if you think of it as a survival game and how you might think of Rust or DayZ or any of these games, anything you might do in those games over time, like I don't know, troll other players, like just get in with your buddies and have fun, like making silly videos, whatever, building crazy stuff. You can do all that in our game too.
Oh, awesome.
That's just separate from this other stuff we're building in as well. Like if you get tired of doing that stuff and you actually kind of want to explore and kind of figure out the game, you've got that option too. A little bit of a story element.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you now like more specific questions about, and hopefully you can answer these. I'm just gonna go like rapid fire if that's all right.
Sounds good.
Okay. How many players on PC on a server?
So our ultimate goal would be to get up towards 100 players on a PC server. That's one of our big optimization pushes as we go into launch and early access. Not sure what our final number is going to be right now for early access, but for final launch, we really want to get there.
Okay. Is there any way you could tell me what you guys want to launch with on early access? How many players, or not sure yet?
We'll know that in the next few weeks. It really depends on our
Okay.
server stability and our we have our open alpha
Yep.
testing that we're going to see how many people we can cram into our servers and what's going to work for early access.
Okay. And is there VoIP?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, it's on official servers, it's proximity based in game.
Oh, nice.
And on unofficial servers, if you host your own, you kind of have the option on how you want to configure that. So
My next question was if you could host your server, so confirmed.
Yes.
You can host your server. And going back to mods, you said, is this going to be in Steam Workshops, something that's going to be as soon as early access goes up, or later on mods?
no, not right away,
Okay.
but it will be through Steam Workshop, and it is one of our priorities to get that going as soon as possible because, as I mentioned, it's a big thing we want to get out of early access with the community.
Mm-hmm. Now, I think one thing, as you know, like early access games, specifically survival games, I'm going to be blunt, they're kind of, a lot of them are bad.
Yeah.
Or a lot of them are just like, they show like you can maybe do like 30 minutes to an hour of stuff before it's like, wow, I need to wait until an update. You've already said you can already spend a lot of time in the game currently in its state. Like, it's going to be content rich, but what about performance? Like, can we expect getting 60 FPS on like a 670 and like a 2700K or something?
No, definitely not right now. I mean,
All right.
we're targeting a 30 FPS frame rate. It's not really a 60 FPS game at this time. And part of the reason is we're really trying to push the graphical fidelity. Like you mentioned, we didn't really want to pull back on the quality of the visuals to try to hit 60 FPS this early in our development. So, in order to dial up all the graphical features at early access launch and run at 1080p at 30 FPS, you're going to need like a 970 or something like that. But that being said, we are really scalable. You can still play the game and it looks really good scaled back on a lesser card, like maybe a 760 or something like that, mid-range card, even lower range cards, depending on how much you scale back your graphic settings and your resolution. So it's really important for us to get as many players in as possible. So we are trying to put in as many tunable options as we can for early access.
So just back on that question. So you guys are aiming for 30, but is that currently where you say optimization is? Is someone still able to get over 60 or?
I'd say we're there right now, but
Okay.
On our kind of lead cards, I would say the reason we're not super optimized more than that right now is just because if you look at how much game we've developed in the past 7 months,
Yeah.
we haven't spent a significant amount of time on optimization.
Okay.
And, that's another reason for early access too. Is like we wouldn't ship a final game that you need with all graphical bells and whistles like a $500 graphics card to just play, right? Like, but that's not the case. That's not where we're at anyway. It's just that we have developed kind of in our own in our own team and in partnership with NVIDIA and stuff like that, some really advanced rendering techniques that we've integrated into Unreal Engine 4 that aren't part of the stock engine. So as those rendering techniques become more optimized throughout early access, we'll be able to enable them on lower level cards and get better performance on the higher end cards.
Okay, and just for clarification fully, you guys are currently aiming for optimization for 30 FPS, but later on in development, could we be seeing 60 FPS? Is that something you guys actively want to aim for?
It's possible.
Okay.
It's not right now in early access. It's not our highest priority to hit that.
Okay. But later on in development, not early access.
We'd like to.
Okay,
I don't know
okay.
if we're going to get there, though. I mean, it really depends on a lot of factors.
Okay.
So,
All right.
I know people like their 60 FPS games, but it's going to depend on the trade-off of quality. You can always get it to 60, right? If you turn off some of the features. I'll say that like our highest end graphical stuff probably won't be the thing that lands on consoles, for example.
Oh,
at
yeah,
that
of
same
course.
same fidelity.
Yep.
As PC gamers, we all know that we can really crank up the visuals and not
Yeah.
expect that same thing to happen on the consoles. So.
Yep, totally. All right, cool. Now, going back to the survival aspect, I know you guys said you want like building, you want surviving, you want a bunch of other stuff. Is there permadeath?
So Not really.
Okay.
You can always kill your character and start a new one.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's something that if people really are into a hardcore mode like that, we'd hope through the tools that you'd be able to
Okay.
create a permadeath mode. And if that becomes like something that everybody really enjoys about the game, and that it could be a candidate for a final game mode as well. But we didn't want to be that hardcore about it.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted people to experience the RPG style stat building and stuff like that. And then when you do die, you're not starting complete from zero. You still have the knowledge that you've unlocked. You might not have any inventory with you at that point, but you can
Oh,
at least gather stuff and rebuild some of
so
the things that you've unlocked.
all right. So let's touch back on that. So, uh, let's say I pick up a bunch of gear or something, and
Yeah.
I don't know, something kills me. I'll still retain the knowledge and all the everything I learned along the way, but all my gear is gone. I start off as a fresh spawn again. Is that what you're saying?
Sure, and you can make
Okay.
it back to your gear. I mean, your character still exists. So let's say I'm
Oh.
killed like 100 meters from where I started. If I get there and nobody's looted my body and it hasn't been, the server amount time of dissolving of my stuff, then I can get back there and pick it up again. But there's two types of knowledge bases in the game. One is stuff that you unlock over time that you kind of learn and you retain. You can also discover recipes and things
Mm-hmm.
in the world from supply crates and just stuff that you find out in the wilderness that can give you the knowledge to create something that isn't retained. It's more like an
Okay.
inventory item. So as long as you have it, you can make it. But if you lose that item and you haven't memorized how to make it, then
Mm-hmm.
you won't be able to craft that thing again until you find those blueprints again.
Okay, so it's kind of Rust style, if you don't mind me making that comparison.
Uh, Part of it is, but then
Okay.
the unlocking of stuff, which is the primary way early in the game to learn things, is I think a little bit different because
Okay.
we didn't want to like overly punish players. Let's say you've been playing for, I don't know, 30 minutes, an hour. You've figured out how to make a spear, a hatchet, and all this stuff, and you get killed. Well, a lot of players might be like, well, dang, now I got to like figure out all that stuff again. But in our game, with this game, the way we have it set up right now,
Mm-hmm.
you can spawn back up, go get the resources you need to craft another spear and a hatchet relatively quickly, and kind of be back up and running where you were in a smaller amount of time. So you're not doing that like 30 minutes to an hour all over again.
Okay. Now, in the trailer, you can see there's a lot of teamwork involved. Are you guys? What exactly is your guys' design philosophy? Are you looking for more of like a sandbox experience? You can be like the bandit type, just kill everyone, anyone you see. You can group
Oh,
up
yeah.
with friends. Okay.
We
So-
are putting in all sorts of fun support for trolling people if you want. I mean, you
Okay.
can knock people unconscious, drag their bodies into the ocean to drown them, or trap them in a cell and keep them prisoner and force feed them to keep them alive. It's like
Alright,
all sorts of
perfect.
stuff you could do.
Perfect. So it's like your choice. You can either you can go all out PvP, or you can,
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Now people are asking about FOV.
Yes.
Are you guys aiming for 90, or is it going to be a slider or anything?
We don't have a slider in there right now. We are something we haven't talked about yet is we are actively doing a lot of VR development as well, and so
Oh, Oculus
we-
Rift, or
yes, and for PlayStation, we're planning Morpheus support.
oh, cool.
And so along with the FOV of non-VR and the FOV of VR, we haven't decided on what our default is or like what the slider might be for people if they're not doing VR. But those are some things also based on feedback that would be easy to add to the game if people really want that.
Okay. Now, when it comes to map size, I'm assuming that's something that isn't complete. You guys are going to keep reiterating on, or you guys are going to keep updating.
Well, actually, that's partially true, but the map we're shipping with for early access is pretty much the size that we plan to ship the game with at launch. Now, the caveat there is that the top-down size of the map is not the whole picture, because although we have an overworld, we also have cave systems that are somewhat arbitrary. It's okay if they all intersect, so there's almost like an unlimited amount of, you can think of a cave like a dungeon, it's like, it doesn't necessarily have to make sense with the rest of the cave. So we have like all these underworld areas that even add to the overall size of the game world. And then we also have underwater areas as well with their own kind of hidden cave systems and precious resources down there, as well as our tall mountains that some of them are only reachable, either using flying creatures or by building structures to traverse up to the steep cliffs and stuff like that.
Very cool. Now, but what about size? Is there anything you can tell me about the size, like kilometers roughly or something?
Oh, yes, sure. So the top-down square kilometers is about 48 square kilometers of the map in early access. And like I said, there's a bunch of cave systems under there as well. So.
And are you guys, is this like the main map you want for your game, or is it going to be like you guys are going to be releasing multiple maps, or?
At launch, it is the main map. That being said, we have some fun ideas planned for expanding the world, but we are designing the game so that there is a ton of gameplay within this map. I mean,
awesome.
The nice thing about Ark is that it's not a procedurally generated world. We're taking a lot of time and care on making places kind of real, give them a human touch, give them names on the map, so you feel like places are unique and there's a lot to discover.
Okay, cool. Now, I'm going to go to character customization. Is this something where you choose a male or female? Because I did see females, I think, in the trailer.
Yes.
So is it that, or is it like, can I customize my character and make him unique or her unique?
Yeah, so the state of our character customization is that we have a rudimentary system in there that allows you to get pretty different results just using some bone scaling. It's not going to be our final character customization system, but at early access, it allows players to have a certain amount of variety and kind of the silhouettes of their characters, whether you want tall and skinny or short and dwarfy characters.
Okay.
We haven't spent a whole lot of time in that because just our experience on previous games, it's easy to rat hole in character customization and spend a lot of time there.
Yeah.
And we want to kind of do that later once we've kind of figured out what players want for customization, what type of items we want to create, and then we can kind of go back and say, all right, here's the real version of the character customization system we want. But to answer your question, yes, male or female, you can kind of choose skin color from a variety of skin tones, eye color, hair color, and then body proportions of all sorts of different extremities. I mean, it's possible in the game to create somewhat comical looking characters.
Yeah, okay.
we think that's kind of okay for early access. I mean, you're going to get some funny screenshots, but people like to create like the Popeye arms or whatever, just to have a unique look to their
I'm that
character,
type of person, to be honest. So
yeah, I figured.
So I'm gonna. How much do you know? How much time we have? I don't want to keep you. So
I can go for a little bit longer if you guys have some more questions.
All right, so I want to
maybe 15 minutes or something.
All right, perfect. So chat has some questions. One very
let's
specific.
answer some chat questions.
Yeah. One specific question.
I don't know how you read these. I mean, they just go by so fast.
I'm
watching the chat right now.
It's the training, man. It's training the mind's eye. So someone asked about Linux servers. Now, is that something you guys are going to be supporting? That might be too specific. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're still working on our final server architecture, but we're going to go with whatever gives us the best performance. And we have multiple options for that, and we want to support the community as best as possible to host their own servers. And so we'll see where that goes, but we are exploring both Windows and Linux solutions.
Now, I actually can't believe I forgot. But what about anti-cheat?
Well, actually, that's a really good question. So, you probably, if you've played any survival games, especially if they're early access, you may have been frustrated by cheating. There's a lot. It's easy to get lazy as a dev when putting in stuff to prevent cheating. But one thing that we've done from the beginning with Ark is that the server is completely authoritative on all of the game world, and the client just kind of sends the key presses and what it thinks happened, and then the server is always judging for every client whether it thinks that was a valid result or not. And so it's very difficult to do your usual hacks and cheats with Ark. I mean, you could still be like have some rendering cheats and stuff like that, like client side, that might give you an advantage, but that's what we'd be using like the anti-cheat system for through Steam and stuff like that for those other minor things. But
So
when it comes to
back.
hardcore cheats, the server is gonna, it makes the server take up more resources, so you will definitely need beefier server machines because
Okay.
they bear the brunt of physics and gameplay calculation and whatnot, but it really does help prevent all that cheating stuff.
Okay. So you did say Steam will take care of that. Is that confirmed VAC as the anti-cheat?
Yes,
or-
but that's only for the remaining client-side stuff that
Yeah,
might
okay.
not be handled by the server-side authoritative system. So, and we're
Okay.
talking minor things at that point because, there's no way a player can say they moved a certain distance or they shot a certain direction that the server doesn't agree with. So,
Okay, cool. Now, another thing I noticed, if you look at the, obviously, on the store Steam page, it says single player, co-op, and multiplayer.
yeah.
What exactly is single player?
So we do have support for a special single-player mode. It's kind of like hosting your own server locally and hopping into the game, and we'll have different balancing. Because actually, if you're playing a multiplayer or co-op server of Ark, playing as a single player can be very tough because it's really kind of designed in that environment to be more of a team game.
Yep.
And so what we're going to do for single player is allow players to kind of experience the game in a little bit different ways. Single player, have a different balancing, different maybe skill progression and stuff like that. But it's still essentially the same game. We still have this story to discover and all of the island to explore. So.
All right, cool. So it's more like for the person who gets owned in multiplayer.
Well, maybe, or maybe you just
right.
don't want all the stress. And you
Yeah,
just wanna
okay.
kind of like walk around and explore.
All right, and I'm assuming co-op is like invite your friends, so like only maybe like 4 of you are together or something. So the whole map is your own, kind of, or.
Well, on a server you host, you could do whatever you want.
Yeah,
I will
okay,
say
okay.
that on
Yeah.
our official servers, there's not really a distinction between like PvP or PvE right now. I mean,
Yep.
that may be something down the line that would become important. But right now, there's really only one mode of the game, which is it's a multiplayer server, and some people are going to want to fight other people. Some people are going to want to be more co-op. So that's
All
how
right.
it's going to go, I think.
Awesome. Now, let's talk about how you guys are going to be going with the business model here. Are you looking for early access, one-time pay, or free to play, or?
Yeah, it's one-time pay for early access.
Awesome. Do you guys have a price pinned down or not yet?
So for early access, we're targeting $25.
Oh, perfect. All right.
So you'll see that price up on the Steam page soon, and that's probably going to be a little bit of a discount from the final release price.
Okay. So early access cheaper compared to the
And
release
I
price?
see people talking about microtransactions and stuff. We're not planning to do any of that. We
Okay.
want people to have a good game, not have to pay extra once they buy the game to enjoy it, and we're not doing any like free to play shenanigans.
Perfect.
So-
I think everyone appreciates what you just said. Now, what about first person and third person? You can see on the mounts it's third person, but is there player third person or is that stuck in first?
No, so right now the player is first person. The mounts are third person optional. For VR, everything is in first person. It's kind of jarring to go to third person suddenly in VR mode when you hop on a dinosaur. So the default for VR is first person everything.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Perfect. It looks like
We
you
don't
guys are
really-
really pushing VR. Like you guys, do you fully believe this is going to be a VR game like you want it to be?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're definitely trying to make it a good, like, built for VR experience. But that
Yeah.
being said, not having VR is just as important to us. And the one thing I would say about first person versus third person is part of the reason we're not doing third person is because we're actually trying to remove as much UI as possible from the game. And so
Oh,
a lot of
good,
our
good. Yep.
weapons have like, physical aiming sights and stuff like that. So you don't have like this floating crosshair everywhere. And that's, hard to do in third person because it just abstracts everything. I know a lot of people like to play a third person game, but we feel that with the fidelity that we're trying to go for in Ark and like just all these dinosaurs and creatures close up, first person was the way we wanted to go
All right,
with it.
I honestly I agree with everything you said, so that's great. Especially for a survival game, I think the less UI, the better. It makes it more immersive, more cinematic and stuff. So, now, okay, let's say me and my friend play on a server. Is it more like we find each other, or is there a grouping system default, or?
Oh yeah, so this is really fun. We have a lot of things in the game that can help you find other players, right? And in fact, it's not in the trailer, but one of the first really fun items you can build after a few hours of gameplay is a flare gun, and it comes in like. It really comes in handy, especially at night and day.
Okay.
If you don't know where somebody's at, fire up a flare, which is also customizable, by the way. You can choose your flare color by putting a tint with it in your inventory. So that's one way to find people. In Ark, you just start with a map, and it kind of loosely tells you where you're at, as it kind of reveals the fog of war as you explore. Later on, you can craft a compass, shows you like which direction you're facing, and later on in the game, you can also craft a GPS, which gives you not your location on the map exactly, but your latitude and longitude as well as your direction, which you can kind of correlate to where you are on the map, and you can kind of put pin markers in your map notebook and stuff like that. And so there's a few ways like that to find people.
And now, let me ask you this. Like, all right, so what are you guys focusing on in terms of how you get gear? Is it very focused on crafting, or are you gonna go to like a desert, maybe like a broken down town in the forest that has gear everywhere, then the gear respawns on the server, or a little
so
of
there's
both?
a couple ways to get gear. I mean, the primary way is crafting it.
Okay.
There's
Even the guns?
Well, yes,
Okay.
but they require other objects. So, for example, we have a technology tier in the game, which is primitive weapons, and then we have what we're calling forged weapons. Those require a forge to actually create with some more exotic resources. And then we have a higher technology tier, which is machined weapons, and those require a machine table workshop and even more advanced resources that you can only find in certain areas of the map. So it's not that you just suddenly craft something out of thin air. You actually have to have the technology required as a tool in order to then build those items from more exotic and rare resources that are out there in the world.
All right, so heavy on crafting, essentially.
Yeah, but that being said, the other way to get resources is through supply drops, supply crates, and those are level-based, and they'll just come down, throughout the day through night. It's a pretty cool sight to see all these things coming down with lights, the mysterious origins, along with these big obelisks that are around the map. But they are unlockable based on level, and they have different statted items in them sometimes. So you might get like a special version of something you could craft that's got like a faster fire rate or more damage rate or something like that. So
all right, awesome. And one more other thing. So I did see there was like it kind of looked like a military weapon, and I did see a sight on it. Now, are you guys having like an attachment system for the guns, or?
Oh yes, that's correct. We are doing that.
Is that going to be in early access, or?
Yes, it's already in the game.
Oh, awesome. So, how can you kind of describe it?
Everything you see in the trailer is straight up in the game right now.
This is straight up early access. What's going to be in?
So the way the attachment system works is in your inventory, once you craft an attachment, you just kind of drag it onto the objects that it's compatible with. And, some attachments like sights are actually compatible with multiple types of weapons, like pistol, single-shot rifle, machine gun. So when you drag those on, it becomes equipped, and then you can use that on your weapon as a physical sight.
Awesome. Now, someone asked me.
We support multiple types of attachments, like flashlights, silencers, aiming systems and stuff like that. Light is very important to us in the game. At the beginning, you can craft primitive torches and things like that, and in the middle tier, you can craft more kind of powerful natural light sources, and then in the higher technology tier, you can actually craft electrical systems that can power floodlights and things like that to sort of light up your fortress and all that stuff. So
very cool. Now, someone asked something funny. He said, can he get on a dinosaur and run someone over and kill them?
Yeah, well, yes, you can actually. If you stop on them in just the right way, you can cause a lot of damage. So.
Well, there you go. Answered that. Let's see. I want something good. Chad, give me something good. I'm going to be selfish with a question for myself.
Sure, let's hear it.
Now, one of the biggest issues with survival games is sometimes it's funny, but sometimes it's like, all right, I just want to play this game legit, how any other player would do it. Is there going to be a streamer friendly UI?
Are you talking about the overall? Is the UI for the game going to be streamer friendly in some way?
Yeah.
Give me an example. Like, what does
So-
streamer friendly mean to you?
All right, so let me give you an example. So there's one survival game I play where I connect to the server, but because when people talk on VoIP or something, their names pop up. When I try to loot their inventory, when they're dead, like their names pop up, you know.
And you're saying you would like to have
Not
that or
have those
not have
names,
that?
not show those, and not show like
Gotcha.
the server you're on.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if that's something that's important to people, we'd be pretty open to putting a toggle in there for that. I mean, as I mentioned
and name
earlier,
tags,
we're all
yeah.
about removing UI. So
Yeah,
if
exactly.
somebody wants less UI for that reason, I mean, there's no reason we can't like just remove all identifying UI. It actually
Yeah.
makes the game probably a little more, I would say, realistic to play, right?
Yeah.
You don't have like floating names everywhere.
Honestly, toggles would be amazing, like toggling name tags on and off and stuff, stuff like that.
I mean, it's supported anyway. It's just whether
Okay.
or not there's a UI option for it, right? Because as a developer, we can go in there and just turn off the UI, right?
I
And
will
so it's
tell
just
you-
a matter of what we put hooks in for.
I will tell you, when it comes to demand, I promise you every single broadcaster who plays this game will agree with me. So there is demand.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know.
All right. Now, one other thing. I think this would be really cool. Is there mounted combat?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
So
Like-
when you're on a dinosaur, you have all of their powers, so you can
Okay.
attack. T-Rex chomps, Velociraptor has its sharp claws. So
What
it's
about the player?
So the player currently, if you are the one who is actually controlling the dinosaur, you don't have control over your weapon. That being said, the larger dinosaurs, other players can sort of hitch a ride on them and be, just in first person, firing from the saddle or whatever, while one person's kind of steering the dinosaur around. So.
You know what's kind of blowing my mind right now? You guys said you started development and it's been less than a year. How did you manage getting all this stuff in? I can ask that.
Yeah, I think that our creative process for developing games has just kind of been refined. A lot of us have worked at a lot of different places for the last, a lot of us 10 to 13 years, and it's just you learn what's important to focus on and what's not. And you'll see when we start early access, there's a lot of stuff in the game that is really important, and then you'll see stuff that's maybe annoying, like some animation popping or feet sliding and stuff. And those are the things we don't drill in on, because we know that's not important right now for the game, and we don't want to like overly invest in stuff that's not going towards the game we're trying to make. We know we'll fix it later. We know we have the ability and the skill to fix that stuff, and I think we've made a lot of those right choices in the past 7 months, and we've gotten to where we're at now.
All right, awesome. Now, this is kind of a loaded question. Now, a lot of it does seem survival. It seems very bare bones and like very human, very mortal. And then you can see there's like gems in the sky. There's like a blue thing on the guy's left arm, or a thing engraved in his arm, and then you also see a dragon at the end. Is there some sort of fantasy elements on top of everything? Okay. Can you elaborate if you can?
Yeah, so that's all kind of what we want players to be a little bit intrigued by when they start the game. Like, what is that obelisk? What is this thing in my arm? It's kind of the motivation to do more than just survive. It's the reason you might want to explore into the cave, to kind of see if there's maybe some explorer notes left around in there, or some clues as to what this island is and like why it even exists, and so that is a big part of the game. And the technology tier actually arcs into the more exotic kind of sci-fi technologies in the end game, and our goal is for people who want to play through past all the like normal survival stuff to really explore the story and explore the island and get into these fights with these big kind of boss creatures, to reward them for kind of unraveling the island's secrets and what's really going on there.
So okay, honestly, when I think of you did say you guys want to reach for 100-man servers, the way I see it visually is like there's a dragon and he's just roaming, and a bunch of different players of different clans.
I will say that the boss creatures are summoned by people who are ready to challenge them. It's not that they're just kind of roaming around the map.
I see. Okay. But can another group come in and like ruin that group's day and steal the kill or something?
Not really, because it's not really like an instance, but it's like the way it's currently handled is that the boss creatures are sort of summoned by a group that's wanting to take on this challenge, and it's kind of like a fight that will ensue. And the way it's sort of pans out is not something that another team's going to just like swoop in and like get a headshot and like steal the whole glory from it, right? So that being said, it's not completely closed. It's just going to be we're going to try to design it a little bit here in early access, so you can't like just nerf people's stuff.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
For example, you're not going to sit at the edge of that boss fight with a sniper rifle and kill the boss in the last second, right? Like we want to try to avoid stuff like that.
Okay. Now, I don't see any other really major questions in chat, so I'm going to ask kind of specific. For example, like we've already confirmed you guys are totally down with PvP and stuff. What type of medical system is it? Is it like you can break your arm, break your legs? Is there a bandaging system, health system, stuff like that?
Sure, yeah. So there's a slow heal. Kind of depends on your food and your water. So it takes those resources in order to heal you. So if you're kind of out of food and you're injured, you're not going to heal. And so you need to kind of take care of your reserves there before you can kind of heal. That being said, you can also craft items that help you heal more quickly, and there's a couple different ways to do that in the game.
Okay. Another thing about the shooting, would you say it's point-to-point shooting or bullet travel?
It is, well, okay, so it depends. Like projectile weapons that use bullets are really point-to-point, but then some of the more primitive weapons like spears and arrows and things like that are actually travel, and they arc through the air and they take time to get to their target.
All right. And before we were talking about the dragon stealing kill with a sniper rifle, does that mean there is a sniper rifle you can craft in the game?
Yes, there is.
Okay. Chat, do you guys have any other questions? Actually, now I know there are probably some console people watching, so I'm only gonna probably play this game on PC personally. Is PC the only, like, are you guys mainly pushing for PC? Or are you trying to get this out the door, making it very top notch before you go into the console space?
Yeah, so that's the idea with early access, is to refine what the final game will be, because we plan to ship the final PC, Mac, and Linux game along with the console releases. And that will be everything we've kind of gathered from early access and then fine-tuned through our formal alpha and beta period up to the console launch.
Okay. And a lot of people are asking about the building system. Now, is this something, can I go mess with someone else's base, take their supplies, destroy their stuff?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, you can, the earliest buildings you can build aren't very, they're not able to withstand a lot of damage. So you'll quickly find out if you want to have a more secure base, you need to kind of upgrade to a wood or a metal structure, and that takes a lot of time to learn that stuff and to gather the resources. And that's where it's good to have a team, somebody who maybe can focus on the building, somebody can focus on the weapons and automated defenses and training dinosaurs.
Nice.
There's a lot to do in the game. There's also farming. I don't know if you saw that in the trailer, but
so like crops or
irrigation and crops. That's a good way to grow your food stores. If you don't want to be hunting all the time, you can plant crops and pipe in water from a nearby water source.
All right.
So
I ask a lot of kill questions because I'm an asshole online, so I try to
that's okay.
kill everyone.
You want to support that.
Yeah. Now we're getting kind of specific, so let's do some rapid fire stuff like earlier. Is there a stamina system?
Yes.
Okay, so like hold shift or something and then stamina depletes, or?
Yep, and then if
Okay.
you manage to fully get winded, you kind of have to stand around for a little bit until you catch your breath.
Okay. Now, how would you describe the shooting? As in, like, is it very? Would you say it's very skill based, or how? If you could, like, what other game would you compare it to, if you can?
Well, it's definitely not as crazy as Call of Duty or anything like that. It's
Okay,
not like
yeah.
really a kind of a fast Twitch-based gameplay, but we do have precision aiming to some degree. That's why we have this attachments and stuff like that. So,
Mm-hmm.
weapons can do a lot of damage to other humans, so that's why you want to kind of armor up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I don't know. I would say I'd put it somewhere between maybe like Far Cry and I don't know what's another good example. Yeah,
I think Far
probably
Cry is
more.
a good example. I know
It's
exactly what
probably
you're
a good
saying.
one. I just didn't want to go too close to that because I mean
Yeah,
we
yeah.
do have a server, a lot of players on it, so there's going to be some give for less precision based on that. But that's kind of the goal, right? To be a more action based shooter and not really a slow pace sort of like Fallout
Yep, yep.
type thing.
All right, cool. Someone asked if you could kidnap someone and push them into the volcano.
100%, yes.
Yeah, you've done it before, clearly. Now, let me see. I'm trying to see. Oh, can you like put armor on your dinosaurs or something? Can you make like your dinosaur your own kind of distinguish it from the rest, or?
That is something that is not currently in early access, but it's
Okay.
something we do want to add
Okay.
during the early access period. So armor, we do also want to support weapon attachments on creatures at some point over the early access life cycle, and so we have
Okay.
a lot of fun stuff planned there.
And how would you say the inventory screen is placed? Is it like a grid inventory, or is it like a weight system, or like is there backpacks you craft or something?
It's weight based, yes.
Okay.
You can, when you level up in the game, you can choose which stats to increase. So, for example, if you wanted to be really fast, you could just put all of your level up points into, your movement speed or your stamina if you wanted to
I
run
do
for a long
that.
time. Yeah. So, melee, whatever, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, it is weight based, and like having dinosaurs and stuff that follow you around can really help you have a larger inventory that you carry around, almost like a pack animal, So.
And something a bit more specific. Now, one thing that's pretty notorious in survival games is people who combat log right when they're about to die. They quickly Alt F4 to save their character so they don't lose gear and everything. Are there any preventative measures to make it so people can't do that?
Well, if you do that, your character just falls asleep right where they're at. So that's
Oh.
not a very good strategy.
Oh, actually, so is it like your character is always in game, as in always vulnerable to someone who is online?
Right. So even if there are more players in the server, if your character exists on that server, your structures are still there. So if you hop out of the game and you're not in a safe place, you're going to get mugged and dragged into the ocean or something. So.
That's pretty awesome. I think that's one of the coolest mechanics. I don't want to keep you too long, and I think you got a lot of stuff, a very, very specific amount of stuff, and I appreciate this. Thank you very much for taking the opportunity.
Thanks, Lirik. And I just want to say to everybody, be sure if you're interested in playing to hit up our alpha. I mean, everything you've seen in the trailer is the current state of the game. There's no fakery there, so we're really excited to have people start playing the game in early access and to really start participating. We'll be doing, regular community Twitch updates and getting feedback from the user base. So.
And before we leave off, if people want to learn more about the game or like discuss the game, where do you recommend to go?
Our primary kind of portal is our Steam page, so we've got our discussion forums up there, and we're pushing all of our updates and contents through the Steam page right now.
All right, cool. And sometime in June, correct, for early access?
Yep, June 2nd.
Oh, June 2nd. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, Steam just says coming soon, June.
All
right, there you
Hard
go,
date.
June 2nd. All right, yeah. All right, thank you very
everybody.
much.
Okay, thanks
All right,
a lot.
have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, guys, let me play the trailer one more time.